The following is an exclusive presentation of the LSU Sports Radio Network. Getting ready for another week of LSU Fighting Tiger football.
It's going to be intercepted, taken away. It's going to be Eli Ricks. 15, 10, 5, pick 6, touchdown, Tigers!
Welcome in to the Coach O press conference.
Soul Truth Monday. I can't wait to see our team today.
A recap of last week and a look ahead to the battle coming up.
Always knew at LSU that you have to win. I know the expectation of LSU is to win, and my goal has always been to win at LSU.
Now, to get things started, from the LSU Sports Radio Network Capital One Studios, here is former Tiger Gordy Rush and the voice of your Fighting Tigers, Chris Blair.
Good Monday afternoon, Tiger fans, and welcome in once again to the Coach O press conference presented by Hancock Whitney. Took a couple of days, but indeed the sun did come out. Nice day here on Monday after a pretty wet weekend here in the capital city. Tigers coming off a tough loss in a rainy Bryan College Station on Saturday, falling 20-7 to Texas A&M. The Tigers now falling to 3-4 on the year. Of course, no time to wallow in that. Got a matchup coming up with the number one team in the land, Alabama, rolling in on Saturday night, kickoff 7 o'clock, LSU and the Crimson Tide at Tiger Stadium. And Gordy, we'll get to the matchup coming up. We'll look at Alabama before we hand it off to Coach Ed Ogeron at the bottom of the hour. But, it's 2020. Things are changing on a daily, weekly basis. I know just before we hit the air, the Southeastern Conference, a lot of people, I should say, late last week trying to decide or decipher what it looked like for the rest of the schedule. We knew they had moved the originally postponed Alabama game to this weekend. They did that late last week. And then the question started to rise, okay, what does the rest of the schedule look like for the last two games of the year? There's a makeup game, obviously, on the 12th in Gainesville against Florida. How did you move this game to the 5th, which was originally supposed to be Ole Miss? I say all that to say this. The SEC tentatively plans to determine and announce its schedule for football games on December 12th and 19th, coming up on Friday, December 4th. That's later this week. Kickoff times and TV selections for the 12th and 19th will be announced on Sunday. So the key word in all of that is tentatively. They tentatively plan to release that later this week. And you have to imagine you and I coming back this weekend talked about the number of scenarios and teams who need games and games that need to be made up and how they're going to decipher and figure all this out.
There's a lot to figure out, including are you going to get all of this week's games kicked off? I mean, you got to start there. And there's so many different scenarios that we could go through here. But the bottom line for LSU is that December 19th is a viable option. Obviously, LSU has not played Ole Miss yet. In fact, Ole Miss is missing some games, including a very important game against Texas A&M. For instance, if Texas A&M were to beat Auburn this weekend, then the league certainly wants to give A&M, Florida, and anybody else that may be on the outside of the college football playoffs every opportunity to get all 10 games in so that the league could get their goal of potentially trying to get two teams into the college football playoffs. So, look, a lot still to figure out. Got to imagine that there's a good chance LSU is going to play December 19th, and we're not going to know until next Sunday what time that Florida football game is, because right now, Chris, the SEC just has 3 contests scheduled for December 12th, right? So that's 6 of the 14 teams are only scheduled as of right now.
So we'll have to wait and see again later this week. The conference tentatively plans to determine and announce the schedule for the 12th and the 19th. Looking back to this last Saturday, 20-7, a rainy night in Bryan College Station. When you look at the stats, a lot of similarities. Obviously, the big difference in the game, turnovers committed by LSU, the inability to run the football against a very good and stingy Aggie defensive front. And, the scoreboard doesn't look it 20-7, but both teams even 267 yards of offense. It was tough conditions and at times a tough game, I'm sure, for everybody involved.
Look, I thought LSU defense played well enough to win. Unfortunately, Texas A&M's defense, especially their front seven were dominant. LSU struggled to run the football, just 36 yards net rushing. The quarterbacks for LSU combined to go 23 of 47 for 2 interceptions. A lot of that yardage came late in the fourth quarter. Texas A&M backed up a little bit, and Max Johnson was able to lead the Tigers down the football field to finally get a score. Disappointing night for LSU offensively, and LSU just has not been able to put it together, offense, defense, in the same ball game this season.
Obviously, 20-7, the score coming out of Saturday, but the news yesterday maybe overshadowed that. Terence Marshall Jr. deciding to shut things down, move on, get ready for the next level. And the last time we saw Terence Marshall in a purple and gold, this time white, purple and gold uniform, 10 catches, 134 yards. He did have the lone touchdown late in that game to get the Tigers on the board and avoid the first shutout since November of 2018. But it takes away another weapon, and not just another weapon, maybe the weapon offensively for LSU.
Yeah, it's tough news for LSU, but, tip of the hat for Terence Marshall coming back off of injury. He got to Baton Rouge. He had injured himself in his senior year, the top wide receiver the year he came out of high school, and I think was really at 100% this year, Chris. He was injured for a couple games, got hurt up at Vanderbilt in 2019, and he was outstanding this season. The reality is this is the normal time of year in which college football regular season has ended. And when you look at Marshall, who obviously is going to be in contention to be a first-round draft choice, I believe February is when the NFL has their regularly scheduled combine up in Indianapolis. Just checking my notes, I believe that event is still scheduled for Indianapolis, but the NFL, much like everything else, I think things are in flux a little bit. And so you can understand in preparation, getting your body ready for combine, giving yourself a chance to rest and all the above, and an amount of money that's at stake. I can understand him making that decision. It's disappointing because in 2020 you still have 2 football games and potentially you have 3 football games potentially and a bowl game out there.
Terence Marshall Jr., again, over the last 2 seasons, double-digit touchdowns both years. Getting the touchdown this past Saturday gives him 10 in 2020, had 13 in that 2019 championship run. Well, let's talk about LSU. I mean, a young team that we've all talked about got a little bit younger. And in that wide receiver room now, obviously, Racey McMath, who did not play last week, hopefully we'll get an update on him from Coach Ogeron coming up in just a little bit on his status for the game this coming Saturday. But a chance for guys to step up. Eric Gilbert, again, a very good go-to receiver at that hybrid tight end position. Keyshawn Butte has shown what he can do. Coy Moore, obviously Jeray Jenkins, John Trey Kirkland. They're going to have to maybe even step it up a little bit more over the next 3 ball games.
No question. I don't think defensively these teams are going to continue to step up and put 8 in the box and get after these young LSU quarterbacks. There's going to be opportunities in man-to-man coverage, and somebody's going to have to step up. I'm interested to see Kirkland, in particular, work out of the slot. He played a lot in the slot a year ago. They decided to move Marshall down into that position, so that's where the void's going to be in that inside slot and the 3 wide set. We'll see who steps up.
Let's talk about the offense. Continue to talk about them. I do want to mention the defense before we go to our first break. But your thoughts on the quarterback play? Again, run game was totally shut down by Texas A&M. For the most part, they rushed 3, rushed 4. They had a lot of delayed blitzes that would come in late. The pocket looked to be clean, looked to be open, and then suddenly pressure would come. Just trying to rattle the young quarterbacks. Your thoughts on Finley and Johnson and their performance and how they step forward coming this week?
Well, for Finley, obviously it was a tough night. 9 of 25, 2 interceptions, and the one big mistake. Right, you don't force the ball up like that in the middle of the football field, especially when you're under pressure there. You don't want to give away 7 points. So it was a difficult evening for Finley, and give Texas A&M credit. They did an excellent job with a lot of pressure packages. They ran some zone blitzes that really difficult for true freshmen to pick up, and so it was a rough night for Finley. Look, I think Johnson did some good things when he got back in there in the second half. At that point, A&M was in control of the football game, up 20-0. They backed up a tad. They still came after him a little bit, 14 of 22, 113 yards and a touchdown. Look, the positive, these two young quarterbacks were under fire on the road. Hopefully they learn from this experience, but we know who's coming to town next weekend. It's not going to get a whole lot easier. And you know, it's rare in this day and age, Chris, that you get two true freshman quarterbacks this sort of playing time in the SEC.
Defensively, real quickly, you said it from the outset, arguably, and I think most people would agree, their best performance of the season. Micah Baskerville, it really has come on strong, really, the last 2 to 3 weeks. Cordell Flott may have played his best game. He was fantastic against the run as far as his run fits are concerned. And they really made things difficult for Kellen Mond, who many people felt like was playing his football in his entire career consistently over the last couple of weeks, although they had not played in 3 weeks before Saturday's game. But they really hold Mond in check. Not a great game for the senior quarterback, 11 of 34, just 105 yards. But your thoughts on what made LSU's defense look better on Saturday?
Well, I think this looked more like a Bo Pelini defense. They were a little bit simpler on the back end, right? And what they were trying to get done. You didn't see the blown coverages that we saw early in the season. I thought Flott was sensational at the nickelback position, not only in run support, as you mentioned, and a lot of times he was the contained guy there, but in man coverage. He was fantastic in terms of shutting down Texas A&M's wide receivers. I thought Jabril Cox was excellent in pass coverage. Was it Wiedemeyer? Was it their tight end, their top receiver? He took him basically out of the football game. Only 4 receptions for 31 yards. And he was targeted probably 12 times in that game. And one other name, you brought up Baskerville. I think that what he has brought to this LSU defense is really been a calming sort of presence with all the problems they had with run fits earlier in the season. Baskerville's really played well, particularly the last 2 weeks at Arkansas and against Texas A&M. And I'll say it, this defense played well enough to win the football game. They forced Texas A&M into 12 punts. A&M had the time of possession. 34-26 was what it ended up, Chris, but it was really, it was a bigger, through 3 quarters, A&M had the ball 10 minutes more than LSU. Unfortunately, the offense struggled, and the defensive effort wasn't good enough to win.
Tough night at Texas A&M Saturday, 20-7 the final score, and LSU's going to need defense, offense, and special teams coming up this Saturday. Take a quick break here on the Coach O press conference presented by Hancock Whitney. When we come back, take a snapshot look at the Alabama Crimson Tide. And then coming up in about 7 minutes or so, Coach Ed Ogeron will make his opening statements and then take questions from the media. We'll return after these words on the LSU Sports Radio Network.
Stadium seats may have been replaced with recliners. Tailgates outside the stadium have been swapped for the ones in the backyard. And thousands of screaming fans have been replaced by one screaming baby. But the only thing that hasn't changed? Us, watching the game together.
It's game time, baby.
Show off your Tiger spirit during your next virtual watch party. Visit Cox.com/Tigers to take a selfie with Mike the Tiger. And don't forget to share. Watch together, cheer together, take a selfie together. Even if you're not actually together. Cox, bringing us closer. People's Health is your Medicare health team, and People's Health is proud to sponsor your LSU Tiger teams. People's Health knows that when it comes to health care, what works is teamwork. Every People's Health Plan member is backed by a Medicare health team of doctors, nurses, pharmacists, and other health professionals. Whatever your health goals, our team's goal is to help you enjoy the best health possible. So compare your Medicare coverage to a People's Health Medicare Advantage plan. Call for your free information kit. People's Health is the official health plan of LSU Athletics. Hey, Tiger fans, LSU wants to remind you to defend the spread by masking up. The best defense against the spread is in your face coverage. Remember to wear your mask in public. Here are some quick and easy steps to stay well. Always wash your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. Avoid touching your face. Clean and disinfect objects or surfaces around you, and stay home if you are feeling sick. Thank you for doing your part. One team, one heartbeat. Go Tigers!
If SEC football runs deep in your veins, then SiriusXM SEC Radio is where you need to be. Where
We're talking conference and team preview, live game, news and analysis from experts like Chris Doering and Aaron Murray, coaches shows, championship specials, and more. Get inside SEC football and do it for free. Listen on your phone, online, and at home with the free SiriusXM trial. Start listening at SiriusXM.com/SECSXM.
Continuing with the Coach O press conference. Coming up, we'll hear direct from the coach. But once again, here are your hosts, Gordy and Chris.
Saturday night, Tiger Stadium, 7 o'clock. Actually, 7:10 p.m. Central Time. It'll be the annual matchup, Alabama and LSU. Crimson Tide coming in. Of course, undefeated on the season, and no surprise, really haven't been tested. 38-19 to open the year at Missouri, 52-24, winning over Texas A&M, 63-48. Ole Miss, maybe a test, three-quarters of that game. Georgia, 41-24, tested in the first half. 48-17 over Tennessee, 41-zip over Mississippi State, and then most recently 63-3 over Kentucky. We could run through the stats here, go through the numbers. Gordy, I guess the best way to do it in the short time we have is to say you look atop the SEC stats for 2020, both offensively and defensively. Alabama is either number one or they are in the top three.
This outstanding football team that didn't lose a lot, Chris, from last year. Obviously, Tua moved on, but there were a lot of players that could have gone to the NFL that came back, and I think that's one of the big differences in what LSU's gone through. They had a lot of people that obviously graduated and moved on. They had juniors that opted to go to the NFL draft, and then LSU now has had 4 or 5 people just opt out of the season altogether. Chase Marshall, Kerry Vincent Jr., and Tyler Shelvin. You haven't seen that sort of attrition at Alabama, and for me it starts with Naji Harris, who I think is as good as any running back in the country. He's been dominant this year, and he has really helped get Mac Jones settled in at quarterback.
No question about it. Najee's second in the SEC in rushing, averaging 6 yards per carry, already 893 yards of rushing on the season, to go along with 17 touchdowns on the year. You mentioned Mac Jones. He's benefited from that running game, and also some pretty good receivers that we'll talk about. But Mac Jones, again, third in the SEC when it comes to passing average, and Devontae Smith. I mean, what else can you say? He's second in the league when it comes to receptions per game. He's got 12 touchdowns, over 1,000 yards receiving so far this year. And I mean, there's when you look across their offense, there's just a lot of guys you got to focus on.
Absolutely, and the people you've got, tremendous skilled people. And then they returned, I think, 4 or 5 starters, Chris, on that offensive line, including Alex Leatherwood, who arguably might be the best offensive lineman in the country. So they return a lot of people from a good football team a year ago.
All right, tall task. Coach O now going to talk about it. Time now for the Coach O press conference presented by Hancock Whitney.
With Coach O opening statement, just a reminder, if you have a question, if you can put in the chat, and we'll unmute your line. Coach O?
All right, good morning, everybody. Good to see everybody. Tell the Truth Monday. Team positive. I thought our defense played its best game the whole year. Holding Texas A&M to 13 points, tremendous job. Hold them to 267 yards total offense, their lowest output of the season. They were 2 of 16 on third downs. We've been phenomenal on third downs the last 2 games on defense. And I thought that turnover on 4th and 1 was an excellent play. It was an excellent effort play. I watched it about 20 times and was turned the outcome of the game. It was about to go up 17 points, and just a tremendous effort by defense. On offense, number one, the scheme has to be better. I watched the film yesterday. We need to put our players in better positions, call better plays, and have answers to their blitzes. They had too many free blitzers hitting our young quarterbacks. Then our execution has to be better, and it starts with pass pro and run blocking. We did not control their front. We did not control their blitzes. We watched that yesterday. We identified what went wrong, and we came up with a lot of solutions. So today's going to be a big day on fixing what went wrong on offense. 2 turnovers, obviously, were -3 in the turnover battle. We had a turnover on special teams. Special teams did not play his best game. We had a missed field goal. We had 4 penalties, and then Zach was running for his life back there. And thank God he's athletic. He avoided a couple of block punts, so I thought Zach did a tremendous job of getting us out of trouble. Terence Marshall opted out. Terence has been a great LSU Tiger for us. It was in a heated battle for him. He was the number 1 wide receiver in the state of Louisiana. He was a must-get, a great family from Shreveport, Louisiana. So we wish him the very best. And I know he's going to have a great career in the NFL, and he's always going to be a great Tiger. And he did a lot of things for us. Gave us 7 games, had 10 receptions, had his best game, and he just thought this was the time to opt out. So we're going to respect his decision and wish him the best. Today is going to be about fixing LSU and a little bit about Alabama. And then tomorrow we're going to move on to Alabama with a scouting report and get ready for them. But we've practiced Alabama, it seems like, now for the 3rd week. So we kind of know them very well. Obviously a great football team, a great football coach, led by their offense, 48 points a game. Mac Jones is having a tremendous year. Naji Harris is going to be the best back we see all year. Devontae Smith is an outstanding player, 72 receptions. They do a great job. Sarkisian does a great job of getting him the ball, and probably the best offensive line that we'll see all year. It's going to be a tremendous challenge, but we're looking forward to playing Alabama. I hope we have a great crowd there, as many as we possibly can, and it'll be a wonderful night for the Tigers. Any questions?
Hey, Coach, good morning. You touched on Terrace. I have some questions related to opts out and transfers and all those things. But first off, did Terrace talk to you about it, about his decision? You kind of alluded to, why maybe the timing was right. Secondly, this season when it started, we all knew it was going to be different. Did you have to adjust your mindset, as you like to say, set your jaw for a different, scenario with these kids that they may opt out in the midseason? There may still be more to come. You kind of have to understand, I guess, and kind of smile through your teeth for them.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Terence did come talk to me yesterday morning, like a man. And Terence and I have a great relationship. I played with his uncle Joe Delaney, and he and I talk about Joe all the time. And so, it was a little different between a player and a coach between me and Terence, almost like family. So he came talk to me like a man. He explained his decision. I respected his decision. And yes, this is a different time. Be able to, like Jamar Chase hopping out, Terence Marshall, 2 of the best receivers in the country, Tyler Shelvin. You just got to deal with it. It's something you got to deal with. Next man up. But we've got a lot of young guys that are getting to play now. They're excited. And I think this is going to help us in the future.
Hey, Coach. Ryan Hennessy. I'm at the NBC in Birmingham. I just got off the Zoom with Coach Saban. He's still at home recovering from COVID, but he said he plans on being back for the game against you guys. What kind of challenges does that bring you with Coach Saban on the sidelines compared to him, let's say, coaching from home?
Well, he's a great coach. I mean, look at what he's done. And he's done a fantastic job with his football team. You can see the same traits in and out with his football team. Execution, great players, great coaches, great plays. I think that the guy's done a tremendous job with his program.
Coach, we'll assume that y'all sent the Keyshawn Butte call that was reversed to the SEC. What was your interpretation of it, and did you get a response from them about that call being reversed?
Yeah, we didn't get a response back, but we definitely sent it back, and we'll see what they say.
Did you think it was? Can you say whether you have an opinion about it?
Sure. I thought it was a touchdown. No question. Yeah.
I mean, you talked about kind of preparing for this year with all the opts out, the possibilities. Kind of 2 questions. The second, won't be related to this, but I'm curious, as the season continues, do you expect more players to follow, or how do you approach that, talking to the team in the wake of this?
Yeah, that has not been discussed with anybody else. I haven't heard anything. The first time I heard about Terence opting out was Sunday morning. He had a tremendous game. But, we're going to take it day by day. Other players can't opt out. That's the rule. Nobody has talked to me about it, but, again, we'll take it day by day and see.
And you talked about protection, offensive line, and working a lot about that today, you said. is it at all similar to the frustrations you had a couple of years ago in 2018? We just had to bring other people in to protect, and it limits you a bit. And I remember you all talked a little bit about spreading out, allowed you all to give the quarterback less pressure sometimes. Those just almost seem like counterintuitive. But I'm wondering, is it at all similar to that, and how are you all finding the answers to that?
Well, we like to spread, and we like to keep one back in for protection, but we also like to empty it out because you get rid of the ball quick. What happened in this game wasn't the amount of people that were blocking, it was how we were blocking it. And they were overloaded one side, and we turned away from it, and those guys came. And that's just scheme. It's something that we can fix. It wasn't about bringing extra people into the protection. We like to get as many people as we can out. We had enough people in protection, but we just wasn't sliding it the right way.
Hey, Coach, good morning. Couple quick questions for you if I can. Last year, obviously, everything's hunky-dory. Couldn't have been better.
I like that.
This year, obviously, it's been challenging. You, the face of the program, the head coach, where is this program heading, Coach? I mean, and where's the light at the end of this kind of dark 2020?
We're building a championship program, and we will be champions again. Recruiting's going well. We got some great young players. We have some stuff that we have to get fixed, and I know we have to fix it, but I've done it before, and I'll do it again.
And, Coach, I know you're big on culture. Pete Carroll, your mentor, has talked to you about all that. Do you feel good about the culture inside your building right now?
I feel good about what we built here over my length as the head coach. I think that we have some things to work on. We have some leadership things to work on. I have some things to work on to get better. But overall, I think we built a great culture inside the building. This year has been a challenge, obviously, with COVID-19, other stuff going on, and has kind of put a little spin on everything. You don't know what the next guy's going to opt out, who's opt out. But I think that overall that we built a good culture here, and we have a good young foundation.
Thank you.
Hey, Coach, obviously with Terrace gone, you can't replace that production that he gave you guys, but just who are some people or some players that you're hoping can step up in his absence and kind of take over as kind of the next in line for you?
I like us to get Eric Gilbert the ball more. I think Eric Gilbert is an outstanding player. We can move him out to a receiver position. John Trey Kirkland sitting in the wings. Hopefully we can get Trey Palmer back. I don't think Racing McMax is going to be back this week. And then we have two great young receivers in Keyshawn Butte and Coy Moore. So we have a lot of guys that are hungry to catch the ball, and I think the next man up is going to prove that they're very good receivers.
Hey, Coach, did Terrace, now that Terrace is gone, did he have COVID earlier in the season, or does he have it now?
I can't comment on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you. And I also wanted to ask you, considering the speech Terrace made to the players about sticking into the season a couple of weeks ago, how do you think, now that he's left, what do you think the players think of that, and what do you think about it?
I think it's something we got to deal with. Obviously, he had a change of heart. I thought when he said it, he meant it, and the team believed him. I think that obviously he had a change of heart. You never can tell what goes on, Glenn, with guys when they talk with their families or people that they talk to, and they make personal decisions. And I think this was strictly a business decision for Terrence. I can't speak for him. Let him speak for it. But again, we support him, and he's been a great LSU Tiger for us.
And you talked about the challenges of this season. I look at you guys or a team like Penn State or maybe Louisville, for example, that were coming off solid years last year and have certainly not lived up to those expectations this year. How much of that do you think is related to the challenges specifically of 2020 and COVID? And do you, while there's the upside of guys getting reps and playing and continuing to build that culture, do you worry about damage done to the culture or the brand or anything like that by having a season that is underwhelming, I guess?
Well, you always got to represent LSU with pride, and the standard performance here is very high. We have not met that, okay? But you know what? I'm not going to make any excuses for COVID. I'm not going to make any excuses for young players. We just got to get the job done. There's a lot of factors that came into this year. I think the biggest thing was the loss of all those great players. And you can look at the NFL today, and they're dominating the NFL. You want to know why we had a good team? Look at the players that we lost. And now we have some young players that I think are going to be just as good, but they're just not there yet.
Hey, Ed, it's Ed, New Orleans. What do you plan to do if you can say, sir, about your quarterback position this week? Do you plan to settle on one, or will you play two, and when will you make that decision?
Well, we're going to see the game plan throughout the week. You know, the surface was wet. We thought that the only reason we pulled TJ was to put Max in and to try some quarterback runs, and we had planned that all week. And we thought that we could get that done, but we couldn't. So we're going to see this week. We're going to practice both of them, and then we're going to make that decision at the end of the week according to the game plan and what we need to get done on offense.
Hey, Ed, obviously you gave that explanation about the offensive line and what you kind of think was going on, but just to kind of understand better, do you think they were mistakes, or do you think it's just something you guys have to change with how you're scheming it?
I think it was both of them. First of all, you got to look at scheme. I mean, we did not have them in the right position a lot of the times, and there were some free blitzers coming in. So the way we turn the protection, the way we protect, those things can be fixed easily, and it's things that we have done before. Now, there's a couple of times where we got beat one-on-one, and we got to have better technique, and we got to play better and compete better. So it's a combination of both.
Thank you.
Hey, Coach, you mentioned Kayshawn and Coy as a couple of guys that you'd like to see more of down the stretch. Where are those two freshman receivers in terms of their development, and just how ready do you feel like they are, or what are some things you need to see from them to take on that big role the rest of the way?
Yeah, I think they're ready to play. I think they're ready to play and will play well. Obviously, there's some things that they need to work on. Obviously, COVID guys are getting quarantined, not being in practice for a couple of weeks and missing some time. It's hurt them a little bit. But I think overall, both those guys have demonstrated in practice they're ready to play.
Hey, Coach, Shea Dixon with 24/7. Each week you had talked about things you wanted to see cleaned up on defense. I assume that list was shorter after the weekend. What was key for them, when you saw the film again and during the of the game?
Simplification, communication, the things that we've been working on, having their cleats in the grass. I think the biggest thing that came out of the game was no explosive passes, and that was a big improvement for us. We had some explosive runs, but we didn't have mistakes where guys were running free down there scoring touchdowns. I thought our man-to-man coverage was great. I thought our plan was great. I thought our defensive line played very well against a very good offensive line. We tackled well. Our linebackers got to the football. We missed a couple of fits on the counter plays, on the big plays. But to hold them for 13 points and 267 yards was a great output by defense.
Hey, Ed, staying sort of on that theme of sort of defensive improvement, you mentioned third down earlier. How have y'all made that how have y'all improved so much in that area over the last 2 weeks after struggling in that way?
Four-man rush and great coverage. It all works together. It all starts with a four-man rush and tight coverage. The quarterback doesn't have a long time to throw the ball. He doesn't have many windows to throw the ball. We had some good pressure on the quarterback, and then we had some five-man rushes, and we had some blitzes, and our man-to-man coverage was pretty good.
Coach, Brett, what did it mean to you when you consider all the criticism that Coach Pelini has been under this year, to see the defense improve as dramatically as it did last week? And how much of it do you think is Coach Pelini adapting to his players, or them kind of figuring out what he's been trying to teach all along?
I think it's a combination of both, Brett. And then, with the criticism, that's outside noise. We can't react to that. We got to control our own mindset within the building. And we got to believe in each other. We got to fight for each other. One team, one heartbeat. It's coaching staff, players together. But I do believe it's a combination of both learning what our players can and can't do, and our players understanding the scheme better, and you can see it working.
Coach, I know that this year you've talked about getting to that championship apex, especially tasting it last year, but removing COVID from this season, with this type of adversity in 2020, do you need a season like this to get to that championship pedigree again?
Matt, I think that you need to build grit within a football team. I think you need to be tough, build toughness, and the young guys need to learn how to go out there and play and win. But we need to coach them better. So I think it's a combination. Nobody wants to go through a season like this, but I do believe we're building character and grit, and it's going to pay off for us later on.
Coach Scooter Hobbs, back to the Terrace speech again. Are you all concerned about what that will do for the morale of the team?
You know, Scooter, it's something we can't control. I mean, that's something that happened last week. I never thought this would happen this week, but you know what? We got to deal with it. This is a year that we've had to deal with a lot of stuff, and you just got to be ready to go and just stay positive with the football team. I think the team is going to look at it and say, okay, Terence is gone. Next man up. Let's go. We're fighting. I think the thing that you saw against Texas A&M was fight in this football team, the will to win and to compete. And our guys have that, and I'm proud of them for that.
Hey, Coach O, two-part question. First of all, defensively, with the exception of 2 runs, you really kept Spiller, in check.
Mm-hmm.
Probably a lot of tackles for losses are at the line of scrimmage. Mm-hmm. Can you relate the challenge that faces your defense this week with Naji Harris and a much bigger back, and a guy who's obviously very capable of catching the ball in the backfield?
Yeah, no question. Well, first of all, they run a little different scheme. This is the best offensive line we've seen come into Tiger Stadium in years, and this is going to be a challenge. And one of the best running backs, and he's very physical. They know what they're doing. The margin of error is going to be very small. We have to play well up front. We have to tackle, and we have to eliminate the explosive play.
The second part, I'm not sure the greater challenge, that's only your coaching job this week, but you, the motivator. You mentioned, the outside noise and how you try to keep your kids looking ahead. And not listen to 4 touchdown underdogs and those kind of things, right? Like David versus Goliath kind of thing.
We never talk about that. That's never been mentioned. And this is Alabama. This is LSU, Alabama, but it's about us. We can control. Let's go in there and let's play our best game that we possibly can play.
Hey, good afternoon, Matt Moscona. Maybe this is a little on the same lines, but I have 2 if I could. Normally when you're playing Alabama, at where it falls on the calendar, there is still a championship on the line.
Yeah.
And there isn't that now. So what do you tell your team this week? And then the other, if I could, after watching the film, how did you all grade out the quarterbacks? And were there differences that you saw in film and maybe what you thought you saw in real time?
Well, the quarterbacks were under duress. I mean, so, I can't put anything on those young quarterbacks. I thought they did the best that they could. They made some mistakes. They made some misreads. But when there's free blitzes and they're attacking them all and the young freshman quarterback, I got to put all the blame on. We got to have a better scheme, number one. And then what I tell this week, tell the team this week, we're playing Alabama at home. That's all we need to hear. And playing Alabama is a great rivalry for us. It's been a great game over the years for us, a tremendous challenge. They're the number 1 team in the country coming to Tiger Stadium. Let's play.
Hey, Coach. Steve Moulton, WZZN. I've got 2, please. You mentioned about limiting the explosive plays and coming off your best game defensively. What goes into, especially with the kind of high-caliber speed that Alabama does have, and limiting those explosive plays?
Yeah, you got to find where Devontae Smith is, number 1. You got to know where he's at, what's he going to do, and you have to cover him. And you may have to double cover him, you may not. But if we do have single coverage, we have guys that can single coverage, you got to be able to eliminate him from getting the ball over the top. Sarkisian does a good job with his play-action pass, it's called gap pass, and take shots. He'll take shots time after time. And you can't get your safeties too far up to play the run because they throw the ball over your head. I think that's the number 1 deal. What was your second question, Steve?
Second question is, since this game is kind of a reschedule, if you were to look back at your team when you were supposed to play Alabama, do you think your team is better today than when you were supposed to play Alabama? Yeah, we have enough people to play. We'd played them the first week. We just didn't have enough people to play. And that's all that was to it. And so I'm glad we played them. I'm glad we got the reschedule. We look forward to playing them.
And I know how much you wanted to have the spread offense, but in the SEC, everyone has it now, and you're about to face two really good offenses the next couple of weeks. Do you feel like these quarterbacks that have come along, so long the SEC was knocked for having no quarterback play, do you feel like their production is a direct result of the spread and, like you've said before, 7-on-7?
Yes, no question. No question. It puts athletes in space and let them make plays. And the people are scoring a lot of points. And the quarterbacks are being groomed in this 7-on-7 league. They're going in there. It's quick. It's a shotgun, getting the ball, throwing it deep. And then again, when you have some great athletes like they have to give the ball, you have success.
I had two questions. First off, how much was not being able to get a push in the run game, not having Torrey Carter available, and what's his status coming back, and is Eric kind of more in that position now?
Torrey's will not be available this week. At 4th and 1, we go hurry up, and we got beat in the line of scrimmage, and that was a big play in the ball game. And then, we're trying to run the leads inside. There was no room to run it. We got to be more creative. We got to get the ball outside, and we got to block better.
It feels like this is the longest and strangest build-up to Alabama that I've seen for a while, like a couple of weeks. What's been kind of behind the scenes? You've said you've wanted to play this game, and how did y'all talk about it? I know you had other games to look at, but in the build-up sense, how did y'all approach towards this?
It's about LSU. Alabama's a great team and a great program, and this is about us getting our team ready to play a great game and doing the best that we possibly can.
Thank you, Coach.
All right, guys. Go Tigers.
Coach Ed Ogeron there with his weekly press conference. A couple of news and notes to take away. Obviously, the Tigers without Terence Marshall Jr. coming up this week. Racey McMath doubtful for the game as well. But Coach O says they're working a little bit on LSU, or a lot on LSU today, a little bit on Alabama. And then tomorrow they'll get more focused on the Crimson Tide. We're going to wrap things up here, give you some program news and notes for the rest of the week as we continue here on the Coach O press conference, once again presented by Hancock Whitney on the LSU Sports Radio Network. Support your LSU Tigers with Hancock Whitney, the official bank of LSU Athletics. From game day to the offseason, Hancock Whitney LSU credit and debit cards are a big win for any Tiger fan. Want to get your paws on these cards? Well, apply online or visit HancockWhitney.com/LSU. Hancock Whitney Bank, member FDIC. All accounts subject to credit approval. Terms and conditions may apply.
If this year has taught us anything, it's we can all do more than we ever thought possible. That compassion can persevere through the greatest challenge, and that ingenuity and excellence can transform us forever. At Our Lady of the Lake, we see each person, never simply the patient, because health is a human experience. Our Lady of the Lake, the official healthcare provider of LSU Athletics.
LSU fans, show your pride with real Tigers gear from the official online store of LSU Athletics, LSUshop.net. You'll find everything a Tiger fan needs, including jerseys, jackets, polos, t-shirts, hats, and more, with an awesome selection of more than 4,100 products, including official team merchandise from Nike. When it comes to team pride, there's only one place real Tiger fans go, LSUshop.net.
Can't just watch? Basically impossible, roundly implausible to enter the gates of the SEC and be a faint spectator? A fly on the wall? Not at all. Excuse yourself to lose yourself in something bigger. The traditions, the superstitions, the fight song in every rendition. You can't just watch. Not in the home of more.
Back to wrap up today's Coach O press conference. Once again, here is Chris Blair.
Well, the media had their chance earlier today during the Coach O press conference presented by Hancock Whitney. It's your chance to talk to Coach O coming up on Wednesday. It's the Ed Ogeron Show, once again presented by Hancock Whitney. We'll be live from TJ Ribs starting at 7 o'clock. You can dial in. You can tweet us a question live at LSU Radio, and also send a question in via the all-new, revamped LSU Sports mobile app. Coming up on Saturday, of course, we've got a football game, but there's basketball tonight. Home opener for Will Wade and the Tigers. Host Southeastern Louisiana, that is. Tip-off 7 o'clock inside the Maravich Center. Former Coach John Brady and I will have the call for you beginning at 6:30. Later on Saturday, we will crank up with LSU Game Day at 5 o'clock, leading you up to kickoff between Alabama and LSU Tiger Stadium. Kickoff set for 7:10 Central Time. We thank you for tuning in today. Thanks to Gordy Rush. And until next time, this is Chris Blair. So long, everybody, and go Tigers.
This has been the Coach O Press Conference.
Go Tigers.
For the very latest on Fighting Tiger football, follow them on Twitter at LSU Football. Online anytime at lsusports.net or download the all-new LSU Sports mobile app.